Okay, welcome back to another week of zooming into the Parsha. And we have this week a double Parsha. Once again, Chukas and Balak. Two very profound Parshas that we have in the Chumash. Many, many messages, of course, for us to learn. Long psukim, long ideas, long stories that are there. We don't have time to go into everything, of course. So I'd like to pick out one idea from the end of Parshas Chukas, the first of the double Parsha that we have. And I'd like to take out an idea that is so central to our lives as Jews, so central to our lives involved in the world of Avodas Hashem, service of God, so central into as we try to process all the different things that are going on in the world around us right now. It's really almost impossible. It's really the way that the Bali Musar, that the Musar masters and giants of all generations speak about it. It's literally impossible for a person to be successful in their life, spiritually, emotionally, even we'll see even in a physical world. It's impossible unless a person begins to work on, to master this concept that we're going to speak about tonight. Towards the end of the Parsha, it speaks over there all about the fighting that took place between Moab, between Sichain, between Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people. And there's many, many verses that are dedicated towards speaking about a battle which seems to be, to an extent, almost insignificant, and it's spoken about in other places as well. And then the Torah tells us the following words. And it says, Al kein yoimru ha-moshlim. Therefore, Al kein yoimru ha-moshlim, the moshlim, the rulers have said the following. Bo cheshbon, come to a place called Cheshbon, Tibane v'sikainen ir sichain, and you should build and establish for yourself a city called Sichain. Simple verse. That's what the Moshlim, that's what the rulers said. Those that were involved in the battles, fighting the war, they came along and they said, you've come this far, now you're going to join into this place called Cheshbon, and you're going to build a city called Sichain. That's the simple explanation of these words. Chazal, our sages, are bothered by the repetition of part of the storyline that is here, and they say that it is really a much deeper lesson that is going on. Now, if you look at the Gemara in Bava Basra, which is where this speaks about, the preface to this Gemara is the preface to this Gemara is the following words. Why is a baby donkey, a foal, F-O-A-L, why is a baby donkey called in the Hebrew a siach, samech yud ches? Why is it called that? Says the Gemara, shemahalech achar sicha noeh. The reason is because siach, and the word sicha, which is speech, says the Gemara, that a little baby donkey follows after the gentle talk when somebody whispers to it and says, come along. Now keep this in mind. A baby donkey is called a siach because the siach, the gentle speech, draws a baby donkey in the direction that they want it to go. What does that have to do with our parsha? Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachman, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. My dichsiv, what does it mean in the verse when it says, Al kein yoimru ha-moshlim? And it says, therefore the moshlim, the rulers came and they said the following, as we said, Bo Cheshbon, come and make a city called Cheshbon, Ir Sichain, a city called Sichain. Says the Gemara, it's not what you think it means. Rather, Al kein yoimru ha-moshlim. Ha-moshlim elo ha-moshlim be-yitzram. A moshel doesn't just mean a ruler, a ruler like someone in a mighty army, but rather a moshlim is someone that rules over their inner yitzram, their desire and their yitzhahara. So therefore, ha-moshlim elo ha-moshlim be-yitzram. When the verse over here is talking about the rulers, about those that are poetic, really it's talking about people that are poetic in their words as well, that they're able to say beautiful ideas in Lashon HaKodesh in the Hebrew language, and they paint tapestries of words that come together to make an idea that will resonate inside the hearts of others. But the real Moshel, the real ruler that we are discussing is someone that knows how to rule over the desires that are there inside of them. Says the Gemara, Bo Cheshbon, come to the city of Cheshbon. Bo v'nachshoy cheshbon shel olam. Come and you should make a cheshbon, you should make an accounting of the world. Cheshbon, which is the name of the place in the Chumash. Cheshbon is also an accounting that someone is going to make. Have said mitzvah keneged schara. You should think about the loss of a mitzvah against its gain, which means that mitzvahs are not so cheap. They sometimes cost a lot of money. Kosher food, for example. You can get Farmer John's over there for $1.99 a pound for the chicken, or you can get Farmer Jonassen's over there for $7.99 a pound for the chicken. You can get a steak in the store for $4.99 a pound, or you can go to the butcher, and we won't even say the prices that there are right now because there's a meat shortage in the kosher butchers, and therefore the prices are going up right now. It's expensive. You don't have to eat meat. You can eat eggs and cheese. That's also okay as long as it's kosher. But l'maisa, at the end of the day, it costs money to do mitzvahs. It's not free. There's a lot that doesn't cost so much, but there's tefillin costs money, a lulav and an esrog costs money, to have nice Shabbos silverware and plates and everything costs money. To be able to pay for your children's Jewish education, it costs money. Everything costs. So a person might think to themselves, is it really worth it? Is it really worth the price for the kosher meat? Is it really worth it to send my children to Jewish school when it's so expensive and it's so difficult to pay all of that? Yes, there are, of course, there are scholarships and the like, but sometimes still it's very hard. I go to the public school down the street, it's free of charge. Says the Gemara, a person should think to themselves the following. Yes, it's going to cost a lot of money sometimes to do mitzvahs. But what is the gain that I'm going to receive as a result of that? It cost me $1,000 for a pair of tefillin. But look at the great mitzvah that I get every single morning. It cost me maybe an extra $100 every week to buy myself the kosher food. But look at the great mitzvah. Everything that goes into my mouth is according to the laws of the Torah. A person is going to come to Sukkot and they're going to buy a lulav and an esrog, the most expensive lemon that you'll ever buy before, because it's not a lemon, it's a mitzvah object. Costs money. What do you gain? You gain the opportunity, the ability to be able to perform a mitzvah. So therefore, says the Gemara, a person should bo cheshbon, come and make an accounting. And think to yourself, yes, it's true that mitzvahs cost money. But think about the gain, the reward in this world and the world to come that a person is going to receive. And you should think to yourself also on the other side of the coin. The tremendous gain, the tremendous reward that a person has when they involve themselves in an avera, in a sin. There's instant gratification, instant pleasure that a person is going to receive. That's why we do the avera. You wouldn't do averas if it wasn't geschmack, if it wasn't good. You wouldn't do the wrong thing if you got no benefit and no pleasure out of it and no enjoyment. The reason the Gemara says that we do the wrong thing is because it feels so good. Temporarily, it feels good. And therefore, a person should think to themselves about the tremendous loss that they're going to incur in this world and the world to come as a result of the pleasure of the avera of the sin that they did here. It's fleeting and transitory. Before you know it, it's gone. And a person can invest so much time and so much energy and so much money and so much of themselves in that behavior. But what do you gain? There's a big loss that is waiting. Think about that, says the Gemara. A person should build and they should establish. which means if you do this, if you make what is called a cheshbon nefesh, you make a spiritual accounting in your life, where you're weighing on the scales, mitzvah versus the avera, the mitzvah versus the sin, the gain that I'm getting for the mitzvah, if I don't spend the money, how much extra money I'll have, versus the loss of the mitzvah itself. The pleasure that a person will enjoy for themselves by engaging in that sinful behavior, it's immediate pleasure, instant gratification, as we said. But I begin to think about the spiritual loss and the destruction that a person can bring upon themselves if they go too far into that direction. If you will do this, if you live your life as a person who has cheshbon nefesh, they make spiritual accountings. Like the Ramchal writes, the merchants they take inventory. The store owners take inventory. Anybody that wants to be successful in their business, they make meetings together with their employees, and they sit down by the table over there, and they begin to hash out the month's productivity or the lack of productivity. Where are they going? Which direction are they moving in? We take it. We make a cheshbon. We make an accounting to figure out how are we going to improve. How can we sell more product? What are we going to do during COVID-19 to keep the doors of our business open? How are we going to pay the employees? How are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to make sure that they don't turn off the lights over here in the shul because it's harder to pay rent this month? What are we going to do? You have to make a cheshbon. You have to make an accounting. And you have to figure out how you're going to proceed and how you're going to be successful. Says the Gemara, that's in business. That's in your store. That's with your employees. That's with your keeping the doors open and the lights on. That's paying all the bills. That's making the business more successful over time. Of course, you got to keep rethinking, reinventing the wheel when you need to. But what about yourself? What about the spiritual inventory that a person needs to take in their life to see, where am I holding? How is my spiritual business doing? Am I improving? Am I growing? Am I expanding? Am I doing more, better things than I have in the past? Am I reaching farther levels in my avodas Hashem, in my service of God? Am I doing all of that? If I'll take an inventory, I'll close the shop once every 6 months to go through everything that there is in the store to see what sells and what doesn't. We'll get rid of the stuff that's not selling anymore. And we'll buy more stuff that is selling. Then aren't I obligated to my neshama, to my nefesh, to my soul, to make an accounting? Here, the chiddush is on a daily basis to examine myself and my growth. What did I accomplish? What did I do? Which direction am I moving in? Am I moving up? Am I moving down? Am I moving forward? Am I moving backwards? What am I doing? Is my prayers better or worse? Is my learning serious or did I take it as a joke? Did I guard my mouth from Lashon Hara today, or did I just let it rattle on and prattle on about things that I shouldn't have been speaking about? Did I work on that midah, on that character trait that is so deficient that if I don't catch myself one of these days, who knows what I'm going to do? Do I appreciate the value of the mitzvahs? Do I put in the extra oomph, the energy and the enthusiasm that I should if I really would appreciate what I have in front of me? Or have I been straying into that world of avera, of sinful behavior, doing other things that maybe aren't so beloved in the eyes of Hashem? Says the Gemara, Im anta oisekein. If you will be such a person, you'll be a merchant over your neshama, and you will take stock every single day of your lives, and you'll think to yourself, don't overburden yourself. Maybe it's too much to make a whole inventory right now. But at least examine a little bit. Tibane ba'olam hazeh, you will be built in this world. V'sikoinen la'olam haba, and you will be established in the world to come. It's a pretty good deal. You're going to be balanced and strong and solid here in this world, and you're going to have a beautiful world to come that is going to be waiting for you. Because anybody who places their ideas, their mind, and their thoughts on their actions in this world, they examine them. So then you will be zeicha, you will merit that Hashem will place your steps in the proper direction in the world to come as well. However, says the Gemara, it says in the verse over there, Ir Sichain, the city of Sichain, Imesim Adam Atzmoi Ayarzem. If a person will make themselves like this donkey, like this baby donkey over here, Shemahalach Achar Sicha Noeh, who is drawn after the gentle speech, the smooth speech over there of who? The sweet talk of the Yetzer Hara. Maksiv Acharav, what does it say after that in the verse? Ki ish yotze mecheshbain. Ki ish, a fire then has come from Cheshbain. Teitze ish mechashvin, a fire will come forth from those who do not make a cheshbon and nefesh, who do not make a spiritual accounting. It will be disaster for the person. If I'm not keeping track, and I'm not watching over myself, and I'm not fully aware and conscious of the things that I'm doing in my life, and I'm not weighing it out on the scales on a daily basis, again, you'll do what you could handle. Some of us can't handle so much weighing in. It's not Weight Watchers over here. We weigh ourselves in to be able to see where exactly am I holding on the scales of Avodas Hashem in the service of God. And I think about mitzvahs and I think about averos. I think about the investment of time, of money, of energy into a mitzvah. And it's hard sometimes. But I think about the tremendous reward that is going to be waiting for me. I think about that Yetzer Hara, that Sicha Noeh, with that sweet talk, how it comes and tries to seduce me with that smooth language and gets me into a direction. I shouldn't be over there. But it's so much pleasure, so much indulgence, so much joy that a person begins to feel that they have at that moment that they're going through the sinful act. But then I have to think to myself, wait a second. If I hold myself back, even though it's hard, even though it's more difficult than just giving in right now, who could imagine the schar, the reward that will be waiting for me in Olam Haba, in the world to come? And who could even imagine the inner strength that I'm going to receive for myself right now when I make a concerted decision to do that which is right? So we're speaking tonight about this concept, this idea called making a cheshbon hanefesh. A cheshbon hanefesh is a spiritual accounting where I take myself to task, where I examine the things that I'm doing and that I am not doing. And it's got to be with honesty. The higher the level that a person is on, the more brutal the honesty can be. But let's not get brutal tonight. Let's use it to inspire ourselves and notice the things in our lives that are weakening, that are crumbling, that are falling in and caving in and falling to the wayside. Everybody knows already so many months of quarantine, we're simply not as devoted and as strong and as connected as we were before the virus came. I call them right now the corona casualties. What are corona casualties? Somebody that was growing and they were moving up and up and up in the world of ruchnius, in their learning, in their davening, in their midos, in their character traits. They were in a great year. And then coronavirus comes. Hit a brick wall. No yeshiva, no school, no shul, no shiurim, no classes, no lectures. Can't see people, can't have a social scene. Can't feel normal about yourself. Locked behind closed doors. Closed doors with not much to do. Zoom only occupies so much time a day. Reading only can occupy so much time a day. Learning can only occupy so much time a day. But there's so many other things to occupy our time. And people that were moving on the up and up and up and up and up, they became the corona casualties over the last 3 months, unfortunately. So it's time to make a cheshbon hanefesh. It's time to examine our deeds, and we have to ask ourselves, do we need to improve? I should say it differently. Not, of course we need to improve. Where can I improve in my life? What area of my avodah, of my service of God, is weakening over the last 3 months? Where should I buckle down and make myself a bit stronger right now? What could I do? But you have to make an accounting, and you have to take inventory, and you have to examine all of the products that you have there in front of you, all of your resources, everything that you are. Again, to the best of your ability, and pick one area of your life and say, that is where I'm going to begin to improve my business in that area. It's the summertime now, so many of the kids, it's quite a miracle. We hope that it will last. But there are camps that opened up for summer. Day camps, summer camps, sleepaway camps, which is a tremendous chesed, tremendous kindness for the children who have been cooped up behind closed doors for 3 months straight, where their only interaction on a social wave was with their friends through Zoom or through some Google chat room that they had over there, or FaceTime. They haven't been around people, they haven't played, they haven't run around, and just let a kid be a kid. So it's really been a chesed that we're able to open up day camps here in California, and that there's sleepaway camps in other parts of the country that are opening in order to allow our children to have at least somewhat of a normal summer experience. So it reminds me of, maybe it was already 5 years ago or so, I think it was about 5 years ago, my 2 oldest sons went away to sleepaway camp for the first time. And my oldest son was in the camp, and he had a lot of friends in the bunk, as they have there. And there was one kid in the bunk who was the kind of kid that you just wished wasn't in your bunk. He was the kid that was annoying. He was the kid that bothered them. He was the one who didn't get along with everybody else. And the other boys in the bunk were beginning to get annoyed with him. They tried, in the very beginning, they tried very hard to make him feel comfortable, to try to be one of the guys, to have fun with them, to do things with them. But to no avail, whatever they tried to do, it just did not work. As the summer went on, and the rest of the boys in the bunk wanted to have a good time, and this particular boy kept getting in the way of their good time because it was like a negative force that was there. So they began to give him a hard time. It wasn't the right thing to do. Kids are kids. They started giving him a hard time. And in the end of the summer, so some of the boys that had been there and had given this kid a hard time, when they were honest with themselves, they realized that they actually felt that they ruined this kid's summer. Felt like they ruined it. They put him down, they made fun of him, whatever they do. We're not going to go into all of the details. I don't know, the eggs in the mattress and the shaving cream on the pillow, you name it, whatever they did, they did. My oldest son felt very guilty after that summer. And he felt as if it was his fault if this boy didn't have a good time. And this boy came home after the summer miserable, and he really was worn out from the summer. My son felt that perhaps because he and his friends were a little bit too strong with him, they ruined his summer experience. And it gnawed at him for an entire year. Up and down, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Whenever he would hear a drasha, or he would hear a shir all about Avas Yisrael, loving your fellow Jew and getting rid of the sinas chinam, the hatred for another Jew, he would always think to himself, back to this boy, we'll call him Yankel over there, who was there in his bunk, and they really ruined his summer. So the next summer, my son went to camp again, a different camp, not the same one. And every year on the East Coast, and towards the end of the summer, all of the camps, they rent out an amusement park, Six Flags, Adventure, I forget what it's called. Great Adventure, thank you very much. It's worthwhile to have one person in the audience tonight live just to answer all of everything that I don't know the words for. Thank you very much, Avisha. So there's a amusement park called Great Adventure, and all of the Jewish camps rented out for one night, and there's like thousands of kids that come all together. And it's a major thing. They bring in big singers, and they have concerts going on, they have kosher food, there's Jewish music playing throughout the entire park, the rides are short lines. It's really exciting for these kids. They look forward to the entire summer. So my son decided that if all the camps are going to get together, he's got to find Yankel from the year before. Hopefully he went back to the same camp. He's got to find him and go and apologize to him. So the whole night that he's there, he's not even enjoying himself in the amusement park because his eyes are looking all over the place. Where's Yankel? So he finally sees some of the boys from the other camp. He says, is Yankel here? Yeah, he's here. He came back this year. Do you know where he is? He was over there. He goes over there. No, he's not there. He's over there. No, he's not there. He can't find him. The whole night he can't find him. The speakers announce over the loudspeaker in the camp, the park is closing in 10 minutes. Everybody has to go back to their buses. And my son is frantically looking all around for Yankel. Where is he? Cannot find him. And he feels so bad. He wants to go and ask him for mechila, for forgiveness, and apologize if he ruined his year last year. As he's walking out of the park, and he's heading towards his bus, which is going to go back to their camp, and there's the whole line of all the other buses waiting for their campers going back to their camps. Far down the road, he sees a boy from behind that looks just like Yankel. And my son starts running through the crowds over there. And he calls out, Yankel, is that you? And suddenly the boy turns around. And it is him. And my son runs over to him and says, I'm so happy to see you. I've been thinking about you so much. He says, really? You're thinking about me? And he says, I just want to apologize. I thought so much about what I did last summer in camp, and I feel so bad for how we ruined your camp experience. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, I really want to ask you forgiveness. I'm really sorry. And the boy looked at my son, and he was very touched that he thought about him. He was very touched that this was obviously the cheshbon and nefesh. This was the accounting that he'd been doing for an entire year. And he was running, and my son said, I was looking for you all night. And he walked him over to his bus. He actually walked him onto the bus. And then finally, they said farewell to each other. And he apologized once more, and that's the end. That is the cheshbon and nefesh. That is the spiritual accounting that a person needs to make for themselves, where they recognize their actions and their deeds. Did I do right? Did I do wrong? Did I do something that is good or something that is bad? Was I straight or was I crooked? Was it something that was truth or falsehood? And when a person begins to examine themselves like that, that is the way, like the Gemara is saying, you are going to have good in this world and you will have good in the world to come. Because a person who's constantly making a cheshbon and nefesh, examining their deeds, they will be so aware and attuned to their actions, to their speech, to their thoughts, to where they're moving in this world. They will increase and they will improve constantly to become a greater person. And if you become a greater person in this world, you benefit yourself and everybody around you. And the ultimate benefit that you're going to receive will be in that world to come. Now says the Gemara the following. The Gemara writes, Amar Rava v'yitem Rav Chizda. They said in the name of Rav Chizda, Im roya adam she'yisurim boyan alav. If a person sees that yisurim, that suffering or pain or struggle or difficulty is coming upon them, yefashvesh v'maisav. They should begin to examine their deeds. Now this Gemara over here could have said something else. If a person sees that yisurim, that suffering is coming upon them, if they see that hard times and challenges and struggles and pain and sorrows are coming upon them, so then they should just take it for what it is, and they got to push themselves through the hardships and the difficulties. They'll push themselves through the pain and they'll get over it. And they'll have to just keep going, the emunah, with the emunah that Hashem knows what He's doing, and He's sending them because it has to make them a stronger person, and that's why it's happening. But the Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says that if a person will see yisurim, they will see suffering that is befalling them, and they will see hard times and difficulties that are coming their way. The first thing that that person should do is yefashvesh b'ma'asav. They should examine their ways. Make a cheshbon hanefesh. Begin to make a spiritual accounting in one's life. Because the Gemara is teaching us nothing happens by mistake. You receive nothing unless it's coming in response to something else. And if you see Yisur, if you see difficulties, if you see struggles, if you are in pain, emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever it might be, says the Gemara, it's time to take an accounting of your actions. Shenemar, like it says, we will examine our ways and we will search them out. V'nashuva ad Hashem. And then I'll return to Hashem. That's what the purpose of a cheshbon nefesh is. I think about my nefesh, my soul, and I try to bring myself back to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Pish peish v'lei matzah. A person examines and they can't find anything wrong. I'm such a great tzaddik. I'm so righteous. I simply can't find anything wrong with me. However, Rashi says that's not really the pshat. Rashi says it means that you look at the yisurim that are in your life and you say, so big I deserve? So much pain and suffering in my life? How could that be? What did I do so terrible? Says the Gemara, Leimansa, if you found nothing in your cheshbon, in your accounting, in what you took a stock of yourself, then Yitlo Bitul Torah, you could assume it's because somewhere you weakened along the way in your learning of Torah. Torah, which is the preeminent mitzvah, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulon, the learning of Torah is equal to all of the mitzvahs. Like the Vilna Gaon says, what does that mean? That means that every single word of Torah that you learn is equivalent to 613 mitzvahs, which means you do the math. If you say 10 words of Torah times 613, that is 6,130 mitzvahs that a person just got. You multiply that by 100, by 200. Imagine we're having a shir right now for 1 hour. We probably speak a couple of thousand words. So every single word multiplied by 613, that's hundreds of thousands of mitzvahs that a person is receiving. So therefore, if a person is negligent in their Torah study, a person doesn't do it, they don't take it seriously, whatever it might be, says the Gemara, you could look deeper inside of yourself and you'll find that's probably one of the reasons why these things are befalling us. But the bottom line from the Gemara that I want to take out of here is that you see, Chazal, our sages, understood that the secret to understanding why the things in our life are happening, the secret to improvement, to make ourselves better than we were before, is you must make a cheshbon nefesh. You must make a spiritual accounting. And if a person doesn't do that, then how are we going to improve? You know, you go to the trainer in the gym, and he weighs you, and he pinches your body fat, and he sees how much weight you can pump, and then he asks you, what would you like to accomplish? What would you like your body to look like? How much would you like to weigh? How strong would you like to be? And he begins to prepare for you that perfect plan. You're burning the fat, you're eating the right food, you're exercising how many times a week, you're pumping the iron, you're doing the cardio. You know what you need to do to improve, and you start doing it. So it's good for you in this world, it's good for you in the world to come. A person has a muscle inside of them called a neshama, it's called the soul. And that muscle needs to be worked, and it needs to be exercised in the right way. And it needs to grow stronger and stronger and stronger in the things that we do. Says the Gemara, Bo Cheshbon, come and make an accounting. Be aware of the intricacies of your soul. Understand what it is that you can accomplish and you have yet to accomplish in your life. Once that a person begins to think like that, once that he begins to understand what it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from him, he goes into a different world. He goes into a world of constantly working on self-improvement. There's a story of a great tzaddik from a previous generation. Can't remember the name offhand right now. He was very, very ill. He was on his deathbed. And the doctors told the family, watch over him like a hawk. He's very sick. He's very fragile. You must make sure he doesn't move too much. He doesn't get up out of the bed. He doesn't use too much energy. If he wants to live, he's got to really lay low to be able to keep his strength about him. So once one of his family members was in the room watching over him, and they see that he was resting peacefully, and they decided to walk out of the room just to go get some fresh air for a few minutes. When they came back in 20 minutes later, lo and behold, they see their father standing in the corner of the room, and he's davening, he's shuckling, he's shaking back and forth, he's davening Shemot Esrei, his silent prayers, like a man in his youth with vibrancy and vigor, davening like they never saw anything like that before. When he finished his prayers, and he took his 3 steps backwards, his son came running over and says, Tati, what are you doing? The doctor said you have to rest, you have to lay down, you can't do this. So he said, I thought to myself, I don't know how much longer I have left in this world. I don't know how much longer. But now it's time to daven mincha. He said, I wanted to make sure that if this, in fact, is going to be the last mincha of my entire life, I'm going to daven better and stronger than I ever would before. I'm not saying try this at home. Not everybody can do such a thing. Nevertheless, in his world of the cheshbon and nefesh, of the spiritual accounting that he was made, that's what he felt that he had to do. The Vilna Gaon writes, in his opening words in his commentary on Sefer Mishlei, not a coincidence, Meishlim, those that are the Meishlim, those that are the rulers over their nefesh, the same word as Mishlei, which is a book of parables, a book of poetic statements that King Solomon makes. Because when a person rules over their spirit, that truly is the poetry of life. That is the way that your neshama is going to speak in this world so beautifully and so fine. The way that it will express itself so in such an incredible way to the world around us, and especially to ourselves. So says the beginning in Mishlei over here, it says the following words. It says, Mishlei Shlomo ben David Melech Yisrael. These are the Mishlei, the parables of King Solomon. What was the point of a whole book of parables? King Solomon's writing a child's book over here, cute little parables to inspire you. What's the point? L'das chachma u'musar, to know chachma, wisdom, and musar. Now what is musar? We'll have to see. Lahavin imrei bina, to understand the words of deeper understanding. Says the Vilna Gaon, what exactly is musar? Musar is from a language of sar, which means to turn away. Musar means when I'm turning away from something that is not good for me, and I will turn myself towards something that is good for me. So whenever a person learns musar, which we call loosely in English, translated into ethics, it's called character development. That means I recognize something that is not good, and I'm maser myself, I turn myself in the other direction. But then from what I learn and what I observe and what I understand, I now turn myself in the right direction in order that I should be able to go forward and move forward in the proper pathway. Says the Vilna Gaon, Im Yitzroy misgaber alof, if the Yetzer Hara gets strong upon you, Liyasir es atzmai, you must, to an extent, he calls mus over here, you're like almost like afflicting yourself, which means you're pushing yourself to your limitations to get away from it. And you want to break, you want to conquer the Yetzer Hara that is there in front of you. Cheshbon and nefesh, the good and the bad, you have to see it. And the Vilna Gaon continues and he writes the following. Now the Yetzer Hara is such a crafty little fellow, isn't he? Sometimes he convinces you that what you're doing is the biggest mitzvah in the world. Yeah, you just learned in the class tonight, you've got to make a spiritual accounting of yourself. You have to weigh out a mitzvah versus an avera versus a sin. So he comes along and convinces you that doing this particular act, which is, according to the Torah, 100% wrong, he convinces you that it is the biggest mitzvah in the world. But your eyes have to be opened up. Because if in what he's calling a mitzvah, there's really a there, there's really sin that's involved, The Yetzer Hara can drag a person in that direction many, many years. The Yetzer Hara is so powerful, and he's so strong, and he's so crafty and wise, and he's tailor-made just for you. We all have our own Yetzer Hara, specially designed and made by the master of the universe himself, who created your soul. He also created the Yetzer Hara to be able to give you the balance of free will in this world. Sometimes that Yetzer Hara will come along and he will convince you, he does a very good job convincing you, that really it's a mitzvah to do this thing that you are doing right now. You know, there's an avera called Lashon Hara about speaking gossip. But he convinces you in this particular case, it's a mitzvah to say Lashon Hara about this person. Who does that person think that they are? What did he do? He doesn't even know. He doesn't even understand. I have a mitzvah. I'm justified to speak Lashon Hara all night long about this person to whoever I want to. Now, anybody who learns the words of the Chavetz Chaim, they know that every single time that the Chavetz Chaim first says about this person you could speak Lashon Hara, then there's about a list of 7 to 10 different requirements you have to go through before you can decide, okay, maybe I'm really not allowed to speak Lashon Hara about this person. But the Yetzer Hara comes along so magically and convinces you. And he says, this is such a good thing for you to do. Just keep going. You won't fall. You're not doing anything wrong. However, after many, many years, then you finally realize, whoops, I just made a terrible, terrible mistake. I was shaving off the ledger. Not so much. $1,000 a month. What's the big deal? You add it up after 1 year, it's $12,000, 2 years, $24,000. You do the math. After 10 years, I managed to shave off $100,000, $120,000. Not so bad. That's not so much. What's the big deal? No one's going to find out. The Yetzer Hara convinces you it's not a big deal. It's not so much. And suddenly, 20 years later, when you get the knock on the door and it's the police, and they say, open up, and they put the handcuffs on you, whoops. Now I realize that was probably not the right thing for me to do. Therefore, you have to go with that Yetzer Hara, with craftiness and cleverness, and because you have to understand, and therefore turn yourself away from those negative forces that are in this world. How are you going to recognize? How are you going to see what's wrong? How are you going to turn yourself away? Only with one ingredient in your life. And this is a spiritual exercise that we have to get in the habit of doing. That's called cheshbon hanefesh. I'm taking a spiritual accounting. And if I don't learn how to take the accounting of spirituality in my life, so then just like a business is going to dissolve, just like you're not going to go further, you won't be able to promote growth. I once had to go to, I think it was a printing shop, and I was going to pick something up. And in the little staff room that they had over there was a whiteboard. And on the whiteboard, obviously they just had some kind of staff meeting, and it showed how much money they had made this month, the month before that. And the question was, how much money are we going to make next month? And then there was a bunch of ideas on the bottom of the board, what exactly they were going to do to increase the sales in that particular business. Wouldn't we like to improve and increase ourselves? Wouldn't we like to grow exponentially? Wouldn't we like to be able to look at ourselves in 5 years or 10 years, take a look around and see, wow, look what I accomplished? Only one way. Cheshbon hanefesh. I'm taking a spiritual accounting of my life. And like the Gemara says over there, Tibone v'sikaini. You will build and you will solidify for yourself a stronger place in this world, and you will solidify for yourself a stronger place in the world to come. Moshe Feinstein, Zeichet Tzadik Livracha, was a man who lived with cheshbon and nefesh in front of his eyes all the time. And there's a famous story about him that he was once, towards the end of his life, he had heart failure, and he had to go into the hospital, and they were very nervous what's going to be the outcome. And in the end, Baruch Hashem, they were able to put in a pacemaker. And as he was lying in the bed recovering, his children noticed that he was in a bad mood, which was very uncharacteristic for Rav Moshe Feinstein. He was a man who was always smiling, always happy, always be'amunah, always with great faith in what was happening in his life. And they asked him, Tati, why do you look so forlorn today? So he says, because I just can't believe that I had heart failure and needed a pacemaker. So they said, Tati, why are you so upset? It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Your heart wasn't feeling well. We got you to the hospital in time. They figured out what the problem was. They were able to put in a pacemaker into you. You're going to live for another 10, 15, 20 years. It's amazing. Why would you be upset? He said, because the Gemara tells us, Im Yisurim Boin Alav, if you have suffering that comes upon you, Yefashvesh b'masov. Examine your deeds. See what you must have done wrong to deserve that. And he said, I've been thinking to myself, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do wrong? So he said, I can't figure it out. And that's bothering me. His children came back the next day and they saw that Rav Moshe had a smile on his face. And he said, I found what I did wrong. He said, I began to make a cheshbon and nefesh. I began to make a spiritual accounting. I went back 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30. I couldn't find anything. Could you imagine such a person? He went back 20, 30 years in his life, could not find anything he did wrong. And he was being, in great humility, totally honest with himself. He was always keeping track of himself. The cheshbon and nefesh, the accounting was always taking place, and therefore he was always aware of what he was doing. He said, I remembered something that happened over 60 years ago when I was a young man learning in yeshiva. My chavrus and I, we were learning together. My study partner, we were learning together. And we got involved in a machlekes, in an argument, what was the right understanding of this particular Gemara. And I said my understanding, and my chavrus, my study partner, says what he thought was the right thing. And I argued with him vehemently, he's wrong, and he was arguing with me, no, that I'm wrong. He says, you know what? Let's go to the Rebbe. Let's go ask the Rebbe what he says. So we went to the Rebbe, and we presented our sides of the case. I emphatically saying that this is the way that the Gemara, what the Gemara means, and my chavus is saying emphatically that he knows what the Gemara means. And the Rebbe listened to both sides, and he said, Moshe said to me, yours is the right way to learn the Gemara. And he said to my chavusa, that's not what the Gemara means. And I smiled ever so slightly that I was right and that my chavusa was wrong. And I just realized, who knows what kind of heartache and pain I might have caused to my study partner, because I gloated ever so slightly over the fact that I was right and he was wrong. Said Rav Moshe, 60 years later, the Ribbono Shel Olam doesn't forget about the things that we did, and that's why I have the heart failure, and that's why I require a pacemaker in right now. At least I was mefashvesh b'maisav. I examined my deeds, and I figured out what it is that I did wrong. If this is the great Rav Moshe Feinstein, that it took him 60 years of traveling through his time in his life to see what it is that he did wrong, we don't have to go so far. We could probably look back a few minutes ago, maybe a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago, but certainly sometime soon, not long before this, we could examine something that we did wrong, but we're only going to catch it. And we're only going to be aware of it if we are making the cheshbon hanefesh, making the spiritual accounting in our life. It is the most freeing and the most liberating exercise that a person can possibly do in their life, because it forces us to acknowledge and to be honest with the things that we are falling short in. And perhaps at this crucial moment in our history, while unfortunately we see that the coronavirus, although everybody thought it was gone, or as some people would like to say, I hope it'll just disappear. So as everything is happening in the world right now in front of us, and is beginning to spike once again, if Yisurim Boyin Allah, if there is suffering that is coming upon us, upon our nation, upon our world, upon our loved ones, upon our families once again being put back into the home. Maybe I heard they're closing restaurants once again, the bar scene, no bars, no beer. What are we going to do? So if Yisurim Boyin Allah, if the suffering is once again coming into this world with the name coronavirus, so then we have an obligation, Yefashvesh b'maisov, examine our deeds. And let us ask ourselves, where could we improve? How could we become better? What could we work on right now in our lives? And if we do that, the Gemara promises us, Tibane v'sikainen, a person that makes a cheshbon nefesh, that takes the spiritual accounting seriously in their life, and they work on their honesty and they improve, then certainly they will build themselves in this world. You're building yourself in this world. You're becoming stronger and more solid. You're becoming braver and more courageous to make the right decisions. You become a person that people admire and look up to and respect because you are the real deal. We can all be the real deal in our lives if only we'll sit and we will allow the things that we do in our lives to resonate inside, to peer into our neshamas, into our souls, and to ask ourselves, am I doing enough? Am I trying the best that I can? Am I making the efforts that are necessary right now to improve during these times? Yes, and as we've spoken about many times, it's true, it's not as easy right now. It's simply not as easy. We are a little bit disconnected from the regular pathways that we know of self-improvement. Nevertheless, everybody could find at least one thing in their life. If Rabbi Moshe went back 60 years to find one little thing that he did, he smiled ever so slightly and he gloated at this boy that he was right and the boy was wrong and he caused him heartache and pain. So we could find at least one thing in our lives that we need to begin to work and improve upon. And maybe it is simply not to have the siach, not to listen to the sweet talk so much of the Yitzhar that comes along and tries to seduce us and get us to think that those things that are right are really wrong, and those things that are wrong are really right. And he begins to fool us, and he brings us in, and he tells us, it's a mitzvah, don't worry, it's a mitzvah, do, it's good for you, it's good for you, it's good for you. It's good for me to do such a thing. Is it really? Let's stop. Don't listen to the talk that's going into your ears over there, and be strong with musar, lahasir, to turn away from that which is wrong and turn towards that which is right. And like we said, these are the moshlim. The moshlim are those that rule over themselves. That is the true poetry of life. The voice of your neshama, which will sing forth all of its beauty and all of its glory with such magnificent statements and words and desire to live life to the best of its ability. That's the tapestry and the poetry. That's the quill and the ink and the pages that are there for us to write our lives on. If only we will do it for ourselves, which means to make the cheshbon nefesh, the accounting of life. If we do that, the neshama gets stronger. If the neshama gets stronger, we'll make more right decisions. The more right decisions that we make in our lives, the more opportunities Hashem is going to present in our pathway to be able to become greater and better and to grow. And then in that zechus and that merit, like it says, Tibani, you'll build for yourself a wonderful place in this world, and you'll prepare for yourself a wonderful place in the world to come. We should be zeichet to, through our yefashvesh b'maisav, through the examination of our deeds. But honestly, I had a Rebbe who told us once, you know when's a good time to do this? When you're going to sleep at night. It's the end of a long day. You have to take the phone and put it in another room so you don't see the blue light coming into your eyes at night. You have to lie back in your bed and you have to begin to think and evaluate how the day went. From the time you woke up in the morning till you're getting to sleep there at night, what did I do? What did I accomplish? Where was I successful? And where did I slip up? Where was I strong and where was I weak? Where was I good and where was I bad? I can begin to think about these things. And as I'm sitting there, I can begin then to make that cheshbon, make that accounting, and prepare myself with good thoughts for the day to come. And in that way, we'll go to sleep with a smile on our face. We'll wake up with a smile on our face. We will build ourselves a beautiful makom, a beautiful place here in this world, and we will prepare for ourselves a most magnificent, magnificent, magnificent place waiting for us in the world to come. Have a wonderful evening. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to stay on, and or you're just ready to go get cracking over there and start making your cheshbon and nefesh. I wish you a lot of strength and courage to be honest, because the more honest you are, the more you're going to grow. Have a wonderful night.